Toma stood quietly in the corner of the docking bay, holding a small backpack. He was the only human among tall, thick-skinned aliens. Some had horns, some had tails. All of them were watching him like he didn't belong there. The ship, Star Mover, had just accepted its first human crew member. Toma was a trained engineer, calm and smart. He didn't talk much. He just worked hard and solved problems. Captain Darrow, an old alien with long ears and silver eyes, stepped forward. "This is Toma," the captain said, looking at the crew. "He's here to help us repair and upgrade the main systems. Treat him with respect." Some aliens nodded slowly. Others looked doubtful. One voice shouted from the back, loud and full of laughter, "Respect. He looks like a snack." Everyone turned. The voice came from Branna, a 330-pound alien girl from the planet Vorn. Her arms were like tree trunks, and her feet made loud thuds as she walked. She was proud, loud, and not very gentle. Branna pointed at Toma. "If he shares a room with me, I'll crush him in his sleep." Toma looked up at her. She was nearly twice his size, with dark blue skin and a thick tail that swayed behind her. But instead of looking scared, he gave a small smile. "I don't snore," he said calmly, "so I won't disturb you." Some of the crew chuckled. Branna blinked. She hadn't expected that answer. "Roommates," the captain said. "Branna and Toma will share cabin C." Branna groaned loudly. "Why me?" "It's the only one with double beds," the captain replied, walking away. Branna looked at Toma again, this time a little unsure. He just picked up his bag and followed her down the hall. Cabin C was big enough for two, but just barely. One bed looked normal-sized. The other had been clearly made for someone like Branna. Her things were already scattered around heavy boots, gravity gloves, and a round pillow that looked like a small sofa. Toma placed his bag near the empty bed. He didn't say a word. He opened a small box and started pulling out tools, placing them neatly on a shelf. Branna watched him. "You're not afraid?" Toma looked up. "Of you? No. You're big, not scary." Branna's tail twitched. No one had ever said that to her before. "Don't say I didn't warn you," she muttered, sitting on her bed. The metal creaked under her weight. The next day, Toma started his shift in the engine room. He was fast and focused, moving between pipes and control panels like he had been there for years. The other crew members watched him closely. They expected him to ask for help or make a mistake. But he did and single quotes T. Instead, he fixed a power loop that had confused even the senior technician. Then he cleaned and adjusted the gravity stabilizer using a small tool he had built himself. Even Captain Darrow raised an eyebrow when he heard about it. "He may be small," the captain said, "but he's useful." Branna, meanwhile, was testing the ship's new workout area. She lifted giant weights while muttering about humans and how light they were. But during her break, she walked past the engine room and saw Toma under a panel, working with one hand and writing with the other. He didn't see her. He was humming to himself. For some reason, Branna didn't say anything. She just stared for a moment and then walked away. That night in the room, Branna came in with her boots covered in dust. She stomped loudly, dropping her things as usual. Toma didn't complain. He was sitting at a small desk, reading from a tablet. "I fixed the floor mat near your bed," he said without looking up. "You kept slipping on the corner." Branna frowned. "You fixed something in my space?" "Yes, it was dangerous." She crossed her arms. "You didn't ask." "I didn't need to," he replied. "Helping you helps both of us." Branna sat down, the bed groaning again. "You're strange." "So I've been told." The morning alarm blinked red across cabin C. Branna reached out with one thick hand and slapped the button. The ship's artificial gravity was set to match her homeworld, 3 times heavier than Earth. Branna felt fine. Heavy air made her muscles feel warm, like wearing a comfortable blanket. Toma, however, was floating halfway out of bed, then dropped the final few centimeters with a soft thud. He blinked twice, sat up slowly, and braced himself on the wall. Every motion felt as if a giant invisible backpack pressed down on his shoulders. He did not complain. Instead, He counted to 5, breathed out, and stood. Branna watched him with one curious eye. "You sure you are not made of paper?" she asked. "Paper folds," Thomas said, tightening the small straps on his boots. "I bend, but I don't break." Branna snorted, amused. She tied her own boots, each one heavier than Thomas' entire toolkit, then lumbered toward the door. The metal floor groaned softly under her weight. Toma followed, keeping close to the wall rail where handholds were attached for maintenance. Workers. The crew mess hall smelled of sweet fruit and roasted herbs. Round tables circled a transparent ceiling panel that showed a narrow strip of swirling space outside. Aliens of many shapes sat and chatted. Thomas stepped into the room, shoulders straight but movements cautious. Every step required effort. The tall medic named Raul spotted him first. "Careful, little human. Heavy zone today," he warned. Toma nodded. "I noticed," he said, setting his tray on a low stool instead of a table. A normal chair would have forced his legs to carry triple weight. Bran arrived loudly, her tray stacked high with protein cubes. She sat opposite Toma. The table wobbled under her weight, then settled. "You could ask the captain to lower gravity for you," she suggested between bites. Toma shook his head. "The ship adjusts for the mission. I adjust for the ship." He carefully lifted a cup of tea in both hands so it would not splash. Branna leaned forward, voice playful. "If you tip over, I can carry you. I could lift for a view on one shoulder." Toma sipped his tea, steady. "And what if I slip out of your grip? Then I catch you again." Branna grinned, showing blunt teeth. Across the hall, two cadet engineers whispered. One pointed at Toma, mimicked stumbling in heavy gravity, and laughed. Toma saw but said nothing. He finished his tea, stood, and took a slow breath. Work shift began in the main engine quarter. Pipes lined the walls, humming with energy. Floor plates here were thin to save weight, so every time Branna walked, the plates clicked and flexed. Toma's light steps made no sound. At a junction box, Branna removed a large filter cartridge. Toma scanned readings on a portable screen. "Filter is clogged," he announced. "Needs a new mesh." Branna nodded. "Hand me one." Toma opened a supply bin, jumped to reach the top shelf, and retrieved a fresh mesh. The extra gravity tugged at his arms like sticky mud, but he kept steady. Branna took the mesh. Her fingers were so wide she handled the part like a coin. She glanced at Toma's narrow shoulders. "Still standing?" "Standing, yes," he said. Moving, slower. His face was pink now. The heavy air demanded stronger breathing. Branna considered him. "Climb on my back," she offered. "That will save you strength." "Thank you. But I need to learn to move myself," Toma replied. "The captain expects skill, not excuses." Branna shrugged and fit the mesh. Toma recalibrated sensors. Wiping sweat, gravity pressed, and his knees wobbled. Yet when the repair finished, the engine hum rose to a crisp tone. Branna crossed her arms with approval. "Good weld," she said. Toma smiled. "Teamwork." During the midday break, Toma returned to the small workshop attached to the cargo bay. He connected his tablet to the design console and opened a blank schematic. Numbers scrolled. Force, stress, compression ratios. He sketched a lattice of spring panels only a few centimeters thick. They would compress under Branna's steps but stay firm for lighter bodies. He called the design soft walk mat, using spare alloy strips and polymer foam. He built a prototype no bigger than a door, each piece locked together like puzzle boards. When he finished, he dragged the mat down the hall, every pull harder than the last because of gravity, yet he did not stop. He laid the panel just inside cabin C, marked it with yellow tape, then collapsed on his bed for 5 minutes, heart racing. He set a small note beside the mat. "Test zone, be careful." Late that evening, Branna returned from weight training. She pushed the door panel and stepped bowing. The mat sank by centimeters, then lifted her gently upward. Surprised, she bounced again. The floor felt soft, almost playful. She bounced a third time and laughed. The sound echoed like rolling thunder. She read Toma's note, scratched her head, and tiptoed farther. Her heavy steps no longer rattled the cabinets. Toma peeked from behind a storage locker, holding a data pad. You like it? He asked. Branna froze, embarrassed to be caught enjoying the mat. It is strange, but pleasant. It spreads weight, Toma explained. Makes walking easier on joints and quieter for neighbors. Branna shifted her big toes into the lattice holes. You build this today. Use spare coils. Toma said, it is only a sample. Branna bounced again, ever so slightly. Soft walk. Good name. Toma beamed. Tomorrow I'll propose installing larger panels in high-traffic halls. Branna tried to remain unimpressed. Maybe not terrible, she admitted, fighting a smile. But you still move like a leaf in wind. Leaves ride the wind skillfully, Toma answered. Branna grunted, half chuckle, half growl. She climbed onto her bed, the frame now cushioned by another thin mat Toma had slid underneath earlier. The usual metal squeal was gone. She blinked at the silence. No squeak, she whispered. Then, louder, you fixed the noise. Needed sleep, Toma replied, lying on his own bed. Sound kept me awake. Branna rolled onto her side. You think of everything. I think of comfort. He said, and teamwork, she added. Quietly, teamwork. He agreed. Next morning, Captain Darrow walked the corridor and stopped. Several soft walk panels lined the floor. He stepped on one. The mat depressed, then sprang back. He lifted an eyebrow in surprise. Toma waited nearby, hands behind his back. Prototype, sir. May reduce fatigue on long shifts. Branna stood beside him, arms folded but posture proud. I tested it, she announced. Acceptable. Captain Darrow tapped a claw on his chin. Submit full report, he said, then walked away. Branna nudged Toma gently with her elbow. The nudge still felt like a shove, but the mat softened the force, and Toma only rocked backward a little. Your idea helps everyone, she said. Your weight proved the design, he answered. They exchanged small smiles. Branna turned before anyone could see hers linger. That evening, gravity remained at triple strength, but the corridor felt lighter because soft walk covered most of it. Crew members bounced slightly as they walked, laughing at the new sensation. In the mess hall, a cadet dropped a fork, and it landed without clatter. The medic Raoul raised a toast of frothy juice to Toma. Even the cook, who rarely spoke, waved politely. Toma sat at his stool, breathing easier now. Branna arrived with her mountain of protein cubes. She set her tray down, and the table no longer wobbled. She gave a small nod of thanks. She still towered over Toma, still weighed as much as 3 humans, and still teased him daily. But something had changed. The floor no longer shook when she walked, and the title she once used, a fragile, no longer carried the edge of doubt. Toma lifted his teacup with one hand. Gravity still pressed hard, but the room felt lighter. He looked up at Branna. Tomorrow, he said, I'll show you a design for portable knee supports. Branna raised an eyebrow. For me, for both of us, he answered. Teamwork, remember? Branna's tail flicked in cheerful agreement. Teamwork, she echoed, and took a careful sip from a tiny cup Toma had modified to fit her big fingers. Soft walk cushioned the entire scene, and for the first time since boarding Star Mover, Toma forgot about gravity, not because it had lessened, but because he and Branna had found balance together. Outside the ship, something blinked red. A small alarm rang through the hallways of the Star Mover. Soft but steady. The main control panel showed a warning. One of the outer sensor towers was not working. That tower helped the ship avoid space debris and random objects while moving. Without it, the ship would have to slow down. Captain Darrow called the team to the control deck. This tower needs manual repair, he said, pointing to a tall structure on the side of the ship. Auto drones can't reach it. Someone must climb up and fix the panel. Most of the crew looked at each other. The climb was long, the path narrow, and the gravity was still on the heavier side for safety drills. A strong person was needed, a careful person too. Branna raised her hand with a loud thump. I'll go, she said. I'm strong enough. Everyone nodded. Of course Branna was strong enough. Then a calm voice came from the back. I'll go too, Toma said. Heads turned. Branna's eyes grew wide. You? You want to climb the ship, you'll float away. There's still gravity, Toma replied. And I designed new harness clips for safer climbing. This is the perfect chance to test them. Captain Darrow looked at both of them. He tapped his chin, then said, "Fine, you'll go together. Branna for strength, Toma for the fix." Branna groaned. "If he slips, I'm not carrying him back in my pocket." An hour later, the two stood near the outer airlock. They wore thick spacesuits with magnetic boots and oxygen tanks. Toma's suit was smaller, sleek, with tools strapped neatly around. His waist, Branna's, was wide and round, built to handle her weight and strength. Toma handed Branna a special harness clip he had made himself. "What's this?" she asked. "Stronger grip. It locks if you slip. I tested it 10 times. Branna turned it in her hand. "You made this?" Toma nodded. "Huh," she muttered. "You're more useful than you look." The climb began. The outer hull of the ship was covered in smooth metal with narrow beams running along the sides. Small handholds and foot anchors had been placed by engineers long ago. That was the path they needed to follow. Branna climbed first. Every step made a low clank as her boots touched the metal. Her body was heavy, but her arms were strong and sure. She moved with power. Toma followed behind. He moved slowly but carefully. He checked every grip twice. His boots were light, and his balance was sharp. When he reached the first beam, he locked his harness clip and rested for a moment. "Doing okay, Paperboy," Branna called from above. Toma smiled under his helmet, still climbing. Halfway up, Branna reached a wide curve on the ship's side. The angle was tricky, and the next handhold was farther away. She reached out, her fingers brushing the cold metal, then her foot slipped. For a moment, her body tilted backward. Toma saw her falling. He didn't panic. Instead, he quickly locked his own harness, pressed a button on his belt, and shot a safety cable forward. The clip grabbed Branna's harness and clicked. Her fall stopped. She dangled in the air for a moment, heavy and surprised. "What just happened?" she asked. "Emergency anchor," Toma replied. "I added it this morning." Branna blinked. "You saved me?" "I prefer the word supported," he said calmly. Branna's face turned serious. "You're full of surprises." Toma climbed closer and helped her swing back toward the beam. She planted her feet and climbed up again, this time slower. "I usually don't need help," she muttered. "Even strong people deserve safety," he answered. They finally reached the broken sensor tower. The device blinked red, showing an error. Its cover was jammed. Branna tried to pull it off, but it wouldn't move. "I'll break it," she growled. "No need," said Toma. "Just hold the bottom steady." Branna held the base. Toma pulled out a small tool with tiny rotating teeth. He slid it into the side of the cover and turned gently. Click. The cover popped open. Inside, a wire had come loose. Toma smiled. Simple fix, as Branna kept the tower still. He repaired the connection, tightened the bolts, and ran a short test. The light turned green. Sensor working. "Done," he said. On the way down, Branna was quiet. Usually she made jokes or loud comments. Now, she just climbed slowly and kept looking at Toma. When they reached the lower hull, she finally spoke. "You didn't make fun of me?" "For what?" "For slipping." "I don't laugh at teammates," Toma replied. "You would have done the same for me." Branna gave a small nod. "Maybe." They reached the airlock and stepped inside. Gravity returned to normal. Toma pulled off his helmet and let out a deep breath. Branna looked at him with new eyes. He was small. He was quiet, but he had steady hands, smart tools, and didn't panic when things went wrong. Later that evening, the crew gathered in the common room. Captain Darrow stood in front of the screen, showing the green light on the sensor tower. "Repairs complete," he said. "Good work." Branna crossed her arms and nodded once. Toma stood beside her, sipping his tea. One of the engineers asked, "Who fixed the broken lock?" Branna pointed to Toma. "He did. And he caught me when I slipped." Gasps filled the room. Even the medic Raul dropped his spoon. "You fell." Someone asked. "I slipped," Branna corrected. "But Toma saved me." The room went silent. Then Raul clapped. The others joined. Soon, The whole room was filled with cheers. Toma looked surprised. Branna leaned down and whispered, "Get used to it, hero." Back in cabin C, Branna tapped the wall once. "Hey, human?" Toma looked up from his datapad. "Yes, you're okay," she said. "Not just smart, brave too." Toma smiled. "You're okay too. Just heavier than expected." Branna laughed, a full belly-shaking laugh. "Careful, or I really will crush you." "Only if you fall again," Toma replied. She raised an eyebrow, then gave a grin. "Then I better hold tight," and for the first time, they both laughed together. After the climb, something changed between Toma and Branna. They still shared cabin C. They still had opposite sizes, different diets, and very different ways of moving. But now, there was something else, quiet respect. Branna no longer called Toma tiny in a loud, teasing voice. Now she said it with a small grin. Toma didn't just fix things, he had helped her, steadied her, and never made fun of her for slipping. In return, she started to notice the way he worked. He didn't rush. He didn't waste words. And he always paid attention to details. One evening, Branna returned from her training session. Her heavy boots left faint marks on the floor, even though soft walk mats now covered most of the room. Toma looked up from his desk. "How was your workout?" "Normal," she replied. Then added, "I lifted one of the spare engine parts." "Just for fun." Toma nodded. "Try not to lift the ship." Branna chuckled. "No promises." She sat down heavily on her bed, which no longer creaked thanks to the support panels Toma had installed under the frame. A few days later, they had the afternoon off. "Want to join me in the common room?" Branna asked, brushing crumbs off her shirt. "For what?" Toma asked. "Table toss," she said proudly. "Vorn-style game. You throw a small table as far as you can." Toma raised an eyebrow. "Do we have spare tables?" "No, but the chairs bounce well," she added. Toma smiled. "Maybe another time." Instead, he pulled out a small box from under his bed. "What's that?" Branna asked, leaning closer. "A tea set." He said, "Human tradition. Hot drink, calm mind." Branna tilted her head. "I thought humans drank something called soda bubbles." "Some do," Toma replied. "But tea is quieter. Good for thinking." He set the small cups on the desk. One cup looked too tiny for Branna's fingers. "I made you a bigger one," he said, handing her a cup shaped like a short bowl. Branna took it carefully. The handle was thick and sturdy, easy to grip. Smells leafy. It is." She sniffed the tea, then took a small sip. "Warm. It's supposed to be." Branna looked at the cup again. Strange, but not bad. Toma sat across from her. "We drink tea and talk about anything." "Anything." "Yes." Branna thought for a moment. "On my home planet, we race across mud hills for fun. No suits, just claws and feet." "Sounds messy," Toma said. "Very." Branna smiled. "What about your world?" "We walk in gardens. Sometimes we feed birds." Branna blinked. "That's it?" Toma nodded. "It's quiet, peaceful." Branna grinned. "You humans are so soft, and yet," Toma said, sipping his tea, "I held your weight with one clip." Branna laughed, nearly spilling her drink. "Okay, fair." Living together became easier. Branna tried to move more gently. She slowed her steps inside the room. She used the sound buffer panels Toma placed on the walls. She even asked before turning on her giant music cube, which used to make the floor shake. Toma, in return, added more support around her space. He replaced a small shelf with a stronger one for her heavy gloves. He installed stronger hooks for her workout gear. He even added a voice-activated light switch so she didn't accidentally crush the wall panel when turning off the lights. One night, Branna came back from her shift early and found Toma fast asleep at his desk, leaning over a datapad. She didn't wake him. Instead, she gently lifted him and placed him on his bed, covering him with a soft thermal blanket. Then she looked at the notes he'd been working on. Gravity assist pads for high-pressure boot, sound filter ear clip for Branna. Prototype air tail flicked. He wasn't just improving the ship. He was helping her, quietly, without asking anything. The next morning, Toma woke up in bed and blinked at the blanket. He turned toward Branna, who was drinking a protein shake. "Did you carry me?" Branna didn't look at him. "Maybe. You're getting better at being gentle." She glanced at him. "You're getting better at falling asleep without warning." Toma smiled. "We're both improving." Later that day, while the ship passed a peaceful nebula, the crew gathered in the rec room. Someone suggested a cultural exchange activity. Each species will share a tradition. Captain Darrow announced, "Something from your home." Aliens shared dance styles, stories, and snacks. One crew member sang with glowing antennae. When it was Branna's turn, she looked unsure. "My traditions are loud. Try something soft, then." Toma whispered. She thought for a moment, then stood tall. "On my world, when someone earns your respect," she said, "you give them one thing, your training stone." From her pocket, she pulled out a smooth, dark gray stone, small but heavy. "This was my first," she said. "I carried it in every workout." She looked at Toma. "And I'm giving it to the human." Gasps filled the room. Even Captain Darrow raised an eyebrow. Branna walked over and gently placed the stone in Toma's hand. Toma held it carefully. "I'll keep it safe." "You'd better," she said, but her voice was soft. Back in Cabin C, Toma placed the stone on his desk. Branna sat on her bed, quietly stretching her legs. "You're not so bad for a soft, tea-drinking leaf," she said, "and you're not so scary for a tail-swinging tank," Toma replied. They both smiled. Branna leaned back, arms behind her head. "If we ever go to Earth, you'll show me those peaceful gardens, right?" "Yes," Toma said. "And you'll teach me how to race in the mud." Branna laughed. "Deal." They sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that feels like friendship. To very different people, learning to live side by side without noise, without fear, and without crushing anything. Life on the Star Mover was peaceful, but the crew sometimes got bored during long space journeys. That's why Captain Darrow had an idea. "We'll hold a team challenge this week," he announced during morning briefing. "A gravity ball game. Every crew member must join." The room buzzed with excitement. Gravity ball was a fun sport played on a special field where gravity changed every few minutes. Sometimes it felt heavy, sometimes light. The ball floated, bounced, or dropped fast, depending on the field's setting. It tested balance, teamwork, and clever thinking. Toma had never played before, but he had read the rule book. Branna grinned wide. "Now this is my kind of fun." Teams are chosen randomly. Toma and Branna ended up on the same team, Team Red. Others on their team included two engineers with long arms and a medic with strong legs. The other team, Team Blue, was larger in number, but had fewer heavy hitters. "Let me guess," Branna said with a smirk. "I do the throwing, and you do the thinking." "That sounds about right," Toma replied. Tying his shoelaces, Branna patted him on the head. "Try not to fly away when gravity drops." The game took place in the recreation hall. The floor had magnetic zones. The walls glowed with changing lights. The ball was round and soft but could move fast depending on the gravity setting. First to 15 points wins, Captain Darrow called. "No floating too high, no pushing your teammates." Toma glanced at Branna. "That rule is for you." She laughed. "I'll try not to squish anyone." The whistle blew. Gravity was normal at first. The ball flew across the field, and players ran, jumped, and passed. Branna grabbed the ball like a melon and threw it across the court. It bounced off the wall and hit the goal. 1 point for Team Red. Cheers echoed. But then the gravity shifted. Everything became light. Toma's feet left the ground slightly. He grabbed the wall rail and adjusted. Branna floated like a balloon, surprised but still smiling. Team Blue used the light gravity to jump and pass quickly. They scored 2 points back-to-back. Branna frowned. "We need a plan." Toma nodded. "During light gravity, we stay low. During heavy gravity, you move forward. I'll signal when to switch." Branna saluted. "Yes, Captain Human." Toma noticed that the game changed every 2 minutes. He started watching the lights above the field. They blinked before gravity changed. That was the key. He called to the team. Watch the top lights. They blinked before the shift. His teammates listened. Soon, they were ready before every change. When gravity got heavy, Branna pushed forward like a tank. When gravity got light, Toma used wall grips and glided to the open zones. He didn't throw the ball hard. He passed it with purpose. He bounced it off walls, used curves, and set up perfect shots. Branna caught one of his passes and scored to more goals. Nice aim, she shouted. Nice catch, he replied. Team Blue got nervous. They started rushing. One player slipped during a gravity drop and missed the ball. Another threw it too hard and hit the ceiling. Team Red stayed calm. With Toma's eyes on the pattern and Branna's strength up front, they kept scoring. Soon it was 14-13. Team Blue had the ball. The field turned heavy again. Everyone slowed. The ball rolled toward the center. Toma made a run for it. His legs felt like they carried stones, but he pushed through. Branna moved to block. The ball reached Toma first. He kicked it lightly to the left wall. It bounced once, twice, then spun around right to Branna. She caught it, jumped, and slammed it into the goal as gravity shifted back to normal. The whistle blew. 15. Team Red wins. Captain Darrow shouted. Cheers burst through the hall. Branna jumped with excitement, then remembered something. She turned around and quickly caught Toma before he tipped over. You okay? She asked, holding him gently. Yes, he laughed, just lightheaded. That last part was heavy. Branna laughed and lifted him up onto her shoulder. I told you I'd carry you one day, she said. And you finally did. He smiled. Back in the mess hall, the crew clapped as Team Red walked in. Medics handed out cool drinks. Captain Darrow handed Toma a small gold pin shaped like a ball. For strategy, he said. Toma took it quietly. Thank you. Branna got a silver pin shaped like a weight. For power, the captain said. Branna held up her pin proudly. This is going next to my training stone. Toma looked surprised. That important? Yes, she nodded. You're important, too. He smiled, unsure what to say. Later, in cabin C, Branna sat on her bed, polishing her pin. You were the real MVP, she said. What's MVP? Toma asked. Most valuable person. Oh, he said, sitting on. The Star Mover sailed calmly through a quiet sector of space. The crew worked steadily, and the ship hummed softly. But Captain Darrow had been watching Toma and Branna closely. Their teamwork during the gravity ball game impressed him. He decided it was time for a special test. In the morning briefing, he spoke firmly. Toma, Branna, you two will work together to fix a critical pipe in the maintenance tunnels. No outside help. No tools except what you carry. The room grew silent. Everyone looked at the two. Branna raised an eyebrow. Just the two of us. Captain Darrow nodded. This is to see how well you can cooperate under pressure. Toma said quietly. Understood, Captain. The maintenance tunnels were narrow and dimly lit. Pipes ran along the walls and ceiling, some pulsing with warm energy. Branna led the way with confident steps. Toma followed, holding a small toolkit and a data pad. After a few minutes, they reached the broken pipe. Steam hissed softly from a small crack. The pipe needed urgent repair to keep the ship's systems running smoothly. Branna bent down, ready to use her strength. Let me smash it open, she said. Then we fix the parts. Toma raised a hand. Wait, smashing may cause more damage. Let's check the damage first. Branna frowned but stepped back. Toma pulled out a small scanner and moved it carefully over the crack. The datapad displayed the pipe's condition. Leak is small, Toma said. But the pipe is weak near the joint. He pulled out a map of the pipe system and pointed to a nearby valve. If we release pressure there, we can stop the leak temporarily. Branna watched and nodded. Toma worked quickly to close the valve. The steam has slowed and stopped. Good, Branna said. Now what? We replaced the cracked section, Toma replied. He showed Branna the replacement pipe piece he had brought. Branna picked it up easily. It was heavy, but lighter than usual because Toma had made it from a strong, lightweight alloy. Together, they moved the new pipe piece into place. Branna held the pipe steady while Toma secured the bolts. The tunnels were tight. Branna's large frame made it hard to move quickly. Toma moved carefully, making sure every bolt was tight. After a few minutes, the repair was done. Toma turned a small lever to reopen the valve. Steam flowed normally. The system was safe again. Captain Darrow was watching from a nearby control panel. He stepped out when they finished. "Good work," he said. "But this test is not just about fixing the pipe." Branna looked at Toma. "We needed to work as one team," Captain Darrow explained. "You two communicated well," he continued. "Neither rushed, neither forced. You combined strength and skill." Toma smiled. "She kept steady when I guided." Branna nodded. "He told me when to slow down." That evening, back in Cabin C, Toma and Branna sat side by side. Branna stretched her arms. "I like working with you like this. No shouting, no rushing." Toma smiled. "It is easier when we listen." They shared a quiet moment. Then Branna said, "You should teach me more ways to fix things without breaking." Toma laughed softly. "I will. And you can teach me how to lift without tiring." Branna nodded. The next day, Branna surprised Toma. She had prepared a small workout area near the engine room. "Try this," she said, handing him a pair of weighted bands. Toma looked curious but accepted. Branna showed him how to use the bands properly. "It will build your strength," she explained. "You are strong in your mind. Now build in your body." Toma smiled. "Thank you." Branna also tried something new. She used a small, delicate tool to fix a loose panel in the control room. Her large fingers were not used to such careful work. Toma watched and gave gentle advice. "Slow and steady," he said, "like the pipe repair." Branna nodded and tried again. Days passed. Their friendship grew stronger. Captain Darrow noticed. During the next meeting, he said, "Humans may be small, but they think clearly. And Branna, your strength combined with Toma's skill is a great team." Branna smiled proudly. Toma felt happy. In the quiet of the night, Branna looked at Toma. "Thank you," she said, "for not giving up on me." Toma shook his head. "Thank you, too, for trusting me." They sat quietly, the ship drifting through stars, together. They knew they could face anything, no matter how heavy or hard. "Would you like me to continue with part 7? The Star Mover sailed smoothly through the dark stretches of space. Stars glittered outside the windows like tiny lanterns. Inside the ship, Toma and Branna were finishing their day's work. This was not just another mission. For both of them, it was a journey of friendship, trust, and understanding. That morning, Captain Darrow had called a meeting. "We will soon reach a new star system. Our task is to explore, learn, and report." The crew prepared for the new phase. Everyone was busy checking equipment, reviewing plans, and making sure the ship was ready. Toma looked at Branna. "Are you ready?" he asked. Branna grinned, her tail swaying slowly behind her. "Ready as ever." "And you?" "I am," he said, "because we work as one team." In the days before arrival, Toma and Branna spent time sharing stories. Branna told him about her home world, wide forests, giant mountains, and racing across muddy hills with her friends. She described the sense of her world, the sounds of thunder, and the taste of wild fruits. Toma spoke of earth, quiet gardens, soft rain, and simple moments like watching birds feed. He described the sun warming his face and the gentle breeze that moved the leaves. They laughed at how different their worlds were. One afternoon, while working on the ship's systems, Branna noticed Toma frowning at a screen. "What's wrong?" she asked. Toma pointed to a set of readings. "The fuel cells are not stable. We need to adjust the flow before the star system." Branna crossed her arms. "Show me." Toma explained the problem in simple steps. Branna listened carefully, nodding. Together, they adjusted the controls, balancing power and safety. When the system hummed smoothly again, Branna smiled. "Good job, human." Toma smiled back. "Couldn't have done it without your steady hands." The day came when the ship entered the new star system. Outside, huge planets floated in silence. Rings spun around a gas giant. Tiny moons danced. In their paths, on the bridge, the crew watched in awe. Captain Darrow said, "This is just the beginning. New worlds, new challenges. Toma and Branna stood side by side, ready to face what came next. That evening, in Cabin C, they sat quietly. Branna pulled out her training stone, now worn smooth from use. She held it up. "This stone means respect," she said softly. "I gave it to you." Toma touched the stone gently. "And this journey means friendship." They smiled, the quiet words stronger than any shout. Before sleep, Branna turned to Toma. "Thank you for teaching me patience. And thank you for teaching me strength." They nodded. "Tomorrow," Toma said, "we climb again." Branna laughed. "And I promise not to slip this time." The Star Mover continued through the stars. Together, Toma and Branna knew the future was bright not because the stars shone, but because of the trust they had built. In the vastness of space, two very different souls had found a friendship that could never be crushed.